Tucker Carlson went on a rant on one of his recent episodes to basically provide a defense of the Capitol rioters. As a fan of revisionism, he wanted to make it seem as though what they did wasn't that bad at all. Let's take a look.
Today is the 3-month anniversary of January 6th. For those of you who aren't good at dates or don't have calendars, this is the day that we pause to remember the white supremacist QAnon insurrection that came so very close to toppling our government and ending this democracy forever. If you saw what happened, it was carried live on television, every gruesome moment. A mob of older people from unfashionable zip codes somehow made it all the way to Washington, D.C., probably by bus. They wandered freely through the Capitol like it was their building or something. They didn't have guns, but a lot of them had extremely dangerous ideas. They talked about the Constitution and something called their rights. Some of them made openly seditious claims. They insisted, for example, that the last election was not entirely fair. The whole thing was terrifying. And then, as you've been told so very often, they committed unspeakable acts of violence. By the time thousands of soldiers arrived to restore order, an unarmed woman, an Air Force veteran, lay dead. To this day, that woman is the one completely verified casualty of the insurrection, the only person whose death we can say definitively was caused by specific events on January 6th. We know how she died. The funny thing is you almost never hear that woman's name. Possibly that's because she was not a Democratic member of Congress or even a Joe Biden voter. She was a protester. Her name was Ashley Babbitt. She was 35. We still don't know who shot Ashley Babbitt or why. No one will tell us. But then when you're fighting insurrectionists, you don't have to explain yourself. You just hyperventilate about QAnon and then you do whatever you want.
Literally everyone said her name. Everyone identified who that woman was, Ashley Babbitt, and we do know who shot her and why she was shot. She was breaking into the House floor, and as she was trying to crawl into or through a broken window, she got shot by authorities who were trying to protect lawmakers who were in the process of evacuating. I'm not saying I'm happy that she got shot, but to make it seem as though like, you know, it's kind of amazing, Woz, because it's like Tucker Carlson's version of like, say her name. Like everyone was saying her name. Like no one was trying to hide what happened. And she was not the only victim that day. But I'm so bored with Tucker Carlson. Yeah, this is what Tucker Carlson does. Welcome to American media.
Yeah, it's troubling, honestly. I'm not amused by what he tried to do there. Basically poo-poo and lampoon just the idea that people were alarmed by the events of January 6th, right? That's quite disgusting behavior on the part of Tucker Carlson, which wouldn't be made more annoying or disgusting if he wasn't on the same network that brought you the new Black Panther Party's coming to rape your daughter, take everything from you, restore welfare to the welfare queens. Like Fox News gave us new Black Panther Party. Fox News gave us the traveling roving caravan that's gonna come and eat our children alive, and these people are scary brown people from who knows where, and that was Fox News that gave us that. So for him to take this posture of, oh, they're so alarmist, when meanwhile at least one cop died. These people, again, they were beating cops up with sticks with nails coming out of them. They tried to tase the cops. Again, if this wasn't Fox News, who gives us fake boogeymen day after day after day after day, this would be ridiculous. But coming from that network, it's made even more of a farce.
Right, and also, I mean, think about why. Like, what persuaded Tucker Carlson to do this segment? So he mentions the 3-month anniversary of what happened that day. Like literally no one is talking about the Capitol rioters, no one. But hey, there are actual substantive issues right now that don't look so great for the GOP. You know, like the fact that the GOP is fighting against Biden's wildly popular infrastructure proposal, or the fact that Republican lawmakers and officials in Georgia didn't like the fact that Biden won that state, and without providing a single shred of evidence of widespread voter fraud, they decided to proceed forward with a voter suppression bill. We don't want to talk about that, so let's go right back to the culture wars. Let's go right back to the red meat that distracts the Fox News audience from the fact that they are being screwed over by the very lawmakers that they support. You know, let's do anything to distract them from the fact that income and wealth inequality continues to be a problem. Let's do anything to distract from the fact that we do not currently have a real functioning democracy. Let's distract them from the issues that they actually would care about by giving them this red meat, right? And it's just, that's the reason why he did it. That's the reason why he does this segment. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, and this material that he's sort of, debuting, right? This idea of a fake 3-month anniversary that liberals are mourning or whatever, like whatever he was trying to convey there is that in the hands of, your average right-wing crank on hate radio or even some of Fox's other programming, this would be a joke. This could easily be laughed off. This could easily be dismissed. But Tucker Carlson is pretty good at communication. He's quite good at what he does, and he's quite good at being a condescending little prick. And so that's why this is kind of dangerous in the hands of Tucker Carlson, which is why we have to cover it today on TYT. I can imagine a certain other people basically doing this same act and then not landing the same way. But because he's on the most popular program on cable news, like, this guy has the biggest show on cable news, and this is what he chooses to do with that platform. It's something to be alarmed by.
Yeah, and I mean, in Greg Gutfeld's incredibly embarrassing late night show debut, his monologue included a little bit of commentary about how, the left just wants to sow division and hatred in the country. What do you think Fox News does? I mean, that is literally like that is how they make their money. That is their bread and butter, right? And so Ashley Babbitt was not the only person who died as a result of the Capitol riots. As you mentioned, Brian Sicknick was the Capitol police officer who died as well. At first, it was thought that he was bludgeoned with some sort of object, maybe like a fire extinguisher or something. But later, it turned out that investigators increasingly believe that he may have been sprayed in the face with mace or bear spray. And that triggered a medical emergency that led to his death. And then you have 2 other Capitol police officers, Jeffrey Smith, and then police officer Howard Liebengood, who both took their lives in the aftermath of the Capitol riots. I mean, and then there were other people who were part of the rioters. They experienced some sort of medical emergency and died as a result. Like that was not a small thing, right? Like I get wanting to have a discussion about, is this really an attempt to take over the government? Was this really an attempted coup, right? Like those discussions, that's one thing. But to completely dismiss what happened that day, I mean, Tucker Carlson knows what he's doing. We know that it's an outright lie. And remember, Tucker Carlson, much like other conservatives, tends to tell on himself. So I'm gonna give you a clip from a previous show that he did. And I think what he says here is telling. Let's go to F3.
Think hard. Why do people lie? Why do you lie? You lie when you're caught doing something you don't want to admit you've done. I didn't eat the Oreos, Bobby did, you say as you wipe the crumbs from your face. You lie to divert attention from your own crimes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That does happen. And that's exactly what Tucker Carlson was doing in his segment about the Capitol riots. That's what they do.
And yeah, Anna, to reiterate what you had mentioned just before that about, the sort of need to frame what happened on frame what happened on January 6th as what it actually was: public officials inciting citizens to violence. Not that they were gonna overthrow the government and take over the levers of power, but it doesn't matter. Public officials incited citizens to go up there and behave that way. It was concentrated, it was premeditated, and exactly what they wanted to happen happened. It was a big display of stupidity, of, just obviously they don't understand how government actually works. But what they did was horrible. It's unconscionable, and I wish there was more severe consequences for what they did. But just because it wasn't an actual coup, just because it wasn't 1776, doesn't mean that this wasn't something newsworthy and something that the Republicans who were involved with it shouldn't be scolded for.
Right, exactly. There's one more video. I know we're really short on time, but I am gonna go to that last video because there's one other lie. I'm gonna quickly address it and then we'll move on. Let's take a look.
That two defendants, Lisa Eisenhart and her son, Eric Munchell, should face indefinite detention. Now, neither Lisa Eisenhart nor her son damaged any property at the Capitol or committed any violence. They just walked in to what we used to refer to as the People's House. And yet somehow Joe Biden's Department of Justice convinced a trial judge that Lisa Eisenhart was a, quote, threat to our republic, and that her son was a, quote, would-be martyr. Keep in mind, these are people whose crime was trespassing in the Capitol. We're not endorsing that, but some perspective, please.
That is not what they were charged with. And the son is the one that was pictured holding the zip ties. And while Tucker Carlson would have you believe that they have been held in indefinite detention, the fact of the matter is the pair were released from custody last week to await trial under home confinement in Tennessee. So I don't know where Tucker Carlson got that talking point from. Also, both of them have been charged with violent entry and disorderly conduct on the Capitol grounds, conspiracy and civil disorder. They're awaiting their trial. That's how justice works. And they are not being held in some detention facility, much like unaccompanied migrant children are right now at the border, something that Tucker Carlson can't get enough of. So those are the facts. That's the reality. Do not allow Tucker Carlson or any other right-wing goon, or even corporate Democrats for that matter, to deflect and distract you from the reality of this country and what most Americans, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, are experiencing. Fact of the matter is, the elites are screwing you. They continue to enjoy their tax cuts. They continue to enjoy their tax havens. Our healthcare system remains broken, and we're still seeing corporations reap the benefits of publicly funded infrastructure without having to pay into it. These are the issues that matter. Lies and culture war nonsense coming from goons like Tucker Carlson is garbage and should be ignored.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.